Uh, and then more concerning to me is what I really saw during the presidency of Moon Jae-in recently, which is how mainstream it is for people who are recently or perhaps in their youthful past were avowedly pro-Pyongyang and that they can be elevated to high office. And really, it's a right fringe issue that someone like, for example, Im Jong Suk, who was a fugitive from justice and a leader of a avowedly pro-North Korean group called Chundae-hyup, who went to visit Kim Il Sung uh, back in 1989 when that sort of thing was illegal. He later was appointed to be the chief of staff to President Moon. A fellow named In Young was also a member of the same organization. As a young student, he became the unification minister of South Korea in charge of the country's relations with the North, just to bring some of that youthful radicalism into the present time. Mr. Im, immediately before he was President Moon's chief of staff, was effectively the financial agent whose job was to manage and transfer royalties from North Korean media from South Korea to North Korea. Um, so, if a person, I would almost compare this to, would an American president appoint David Duke to lead the EEOC? And if David Duke were to say, well, that's all in my past long ago, I'm not like that anymore, I think that that would still be a difficult confirmation process. Um, I won't get into every single example, but I think Park Ji-won deserves mentioning. He was convicted for illegally transferring the $500 million payment that bought the 2000 summit that won Kim Dae-jung the Nobel Peace Prize. He was later put in charge of South Korea's National Intelligence Service, where he imposed a lot of changes that some would say crippled its counterintelligence capabilities. So this is just not that big a deal to most South Koreans. So it's not difficult to imagine a future administration being effectively um, ambivalent between the United States and North Korea, and that's putting it generously. Let me give you an example. When Ian Young was appointed unification minister, almost immediately he came out with a plan to circumvent UN sanctions on North Korea with barter trade, a little bit of investigation by journalists in South Korea found that the entity that he wanted to set up these barter transactions with was a front for a sanctioned North Korean government agency. So, yes, it is very concerning that there could be some fairly anti North Korean changes of policy, and that is within the scope of what would be called mainstream in South Korea. Next slide, please.